think the main thing, and to be honest, I don't, to be black is like not a blanket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's why it's important for us to take time to celebrate our heritage. But to be black is not a blanket, especially being black in South Africa. It's not a blanket.
Yeah.
And I think that fear of like, it was a diss to be called Model C.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it was used in that way. Because you'd go to the hood and they'll be like, you wearing khaki shorts.
Yeah.
What the hell, Model C?
Exactly.
Maybe khaki shorts, yeah.
So, and going to a private school,
yeah.
even though however you got there, took so much sacrifice from your parents or your grandmother or whoever, but to be in a private school automatically had put like a barrier between people.
Yeah.
So a private school kid couldn't rock up to or you could, but you couldn't rock up to a street bash and be accepted as if like you're from there.
And you'd pitch up there wearing Vans and be like, why aren't you wearing Converse? What the hell?
There was always an asterisk.
Yeah.
Like, you're not exactly like us.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, that was always the biggest fear of like, okay, where do I fit in? Okay, shit, I'm from Gomashu. I'm from Venda. My family's in Polokwane.
Yeah.
I go to school. I'm at a private school with all white boys. When I get out of that private school and I come back into the real world, there's that fear of like you won't be accepted by people that went to maybe to a government school or even a Model C school, because now it's like it's a government school in your hood, then it's a Model C, then it's private.
Yeah.
So there's all separation.
And there's always been a sense of like remorse.
Yeah, it's like,
it's like you think you're better than us just because you went to that school. So there's always like that, because I lived in a hood and I went to a white school, so I'll take the taxi back home and I'd wear my khaki shorts, and the moment you step in the hood, the other kids will look at you, and instead of being like, yo, what school do you go to, what's it like?
They already know.
They'll be dissing you on some, you're wearing those Buddha shorts. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, you play rugby, why aren't you playing Gitiski?
Exactly.
Like,
so for us now, I think the goal, well for me, the goal was being like, okay, fuck it. My Zulu will never be as strong as Zagwe Zulu.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to rap as hard as Zagwe, or even as an Ifani.
Yeah.
In the way he was rapping.
Like that pro street, or that pro street flow,
So I'm gonna come up with my own version.
The lingo.
Of my own lingo and my own style that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
And show people that it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because some people think it matters. They think like, there's kids now, we've got black kids that are growing up in white schools that can't really speak Zulu.
Yeah.
But when we speak Zulu to them or whatever their mother tongue is, they get embarrassed to.
Oh, they feel ashamed. They feel ashamed.
They can try to meet you, as you speak, but they feel ashamed to not have your exact dialect or not have your exact delivery.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to, avoid kids falling into, because a lot of kids can pick up these languages.
Yeah. And the craziest thing, I don't know if you can relate, like, I mean, going to like a boys' school and being in that sort of like private school setting and then going back to the hood, like, I always felt alienated.
Yeah.
Where I felt like I didn't belong, because in the hood, it would be, you're not black enough, essentially. You're not chilling on the streets with us. You're busy wanting to skateboard, you're busy wanting to play rugby on a Saturday. You're not Dalama Dance with the dudes on a Saturday. But then at the same time, in a white school, there's always a thing of the only few of us who got that opportunity. So all the white kids would be like, oh yeah, you're not like the other black guys. So also you'd sense that like, they don't know that, say, like, as much as I'm here and I can speak fluent English and as much as I can play rugby and all these things and do well academically, I still have a deep cultural understanding of where I come from, and I can speak Xhosa fluently. So growing up as a kid, I always felt alienated, because it was always like, and I think it goes back to that poverty mindset where as black people, we don't believe, deep down, we don't believe that we actually deserve to be anything that we want to be. Because I also think historically the world has told us to stay in these boxes, and I think in the township that attitude still remains, that like if you want to be a musician, you must first study accounting and have something to fall back on. We don't grow. You remember like growing up in high school, some of our white friends would go on gap years, and we'd be like, yo, you need to study to feed the family. So there's always been that pressure, and also like in the media as well, and how media advertises, they'll never advertise to kids like us who come from Model C schools, but at the same time, we did grow up in the township. We know where our family comes from. We can speak closer. But then you'll find a brand will only talk to a Santon you, or it will talk to a Zone 6 type of you, but it wouldn't feature the fact that, yo, like, you are paying attention to fashion globally, so that influences you, but also you're influenced by your culture. You're from Venda, but you live Guamashu, so your lingo is mixed up of both, and that's cool and that's fine. So did you also find it difficult growing up, sort of having all these different mixtures and having to sort of like I found myself having to become a chameleon, where if I was in the hood, I'd be in the hood and even dress like I'm in the hood because I didn't want people to see that I'm Model C. When I was with the white kids, I would dress wearing the Vans because I was like, I want to be cool also and fit into the space.
Well, hip-hop, I mean, hip-hop made made every transition easier for me, because already being in the hip-hop field, you're already known as that person who listens to hip-hop. That's like a section of its own, you know? So no matter where you go, whether you were in Santon or whether you were in Alex, you're always a hip-hop guy. So I was always the hip-hop guy. And that sort of made it a bit easier, but it was difficult in terms of like trying to figure out how do I connect with people, you know? That's why guys like the Pro Kids, guys like the HHPs, they sort of open up the door to say that you can be hip hop and still rap in Tswana, or be hip hop and still rap in Zulu and kill it. You know, that was like something that made us realize, hey, actually we can mix all of our heritage and still live inside the hip hop space.
Telling you something funny. Like I always grew up like watching politics, right? And for me, what was funny is that because I grew up sort of in the Thabo Mbeki phase of politics and then got into the Zuma era. And one thing I always remember in our household at home, when Thabo Mbeki would stand up, my grand would be like, I don't understand what he's saying. He's talking about economic this, using fancy words. And then Sholozi would come in the picture and sing a song before he gets on the podium. And already my grand would be like, you know what I'm saying? So it's also like that tough space of like, where's that balance of like, you know, being global, but also still remaining like culturally relevant to also service where you come from, you know?
I mean, I think people, even so today, people don't believe that I speak Zulu because we did a movie where I was like an American in the movie, so I was acting like an American guy. Just from that movie alone, people still believe that, hey, this guy is American, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like also the what we broadcast is important, like you say, the way you broadcast it out. So that message of I was gonna say Africanacity.
Africanacity, that's a new word, Africanacity. I like
about to say that, but that's a plug. That's another plug.
Someone's gonna bite that, and you're gonna see it in an advert.
It is from Africa.
Oh, is it AMSA? I think AMSA, Africanacity. That's nice.
But involving that in everything that we do is important because people feed off of that energy. You know?
In terms of looking at like this Vaseline campaign and like the incredible work, you know, like just a step back actually, like the way in which you work with brands, when I look at how you've worked with brands in the past and how you work with brands now, I love the fact that you feed the brands into your heritage. You know, like with Vaseline, you're not just a face on the adverts and billboards, but then you've involved them in your music. You've involved them in the space of your life that you're in. You know, what do you want other creatives or other artists in your industry that have, you know, been in long collaborations with brands where they sign a 3.5 million deal or whatever, and then 5 years later, it's like nothing was actually built beyond the money that was given. How important was it for you to do this collaboration with Vaseline, but most importantly, making them understand that this is who Riky is. This is where my career is at. This is where I want you guys to meet me as well.
Yeah, I think it's it's a bit of a give and take, you know, because what you're trying to do is find the balance between both brands. But I think the most important thing is knowing what your message is. The same way that a brand knows what their message is, you got to know your message. Because some people think like people aren't going to meet you halfway. Sometimes people think like your input is not valuable. And we need to start upping the confidence between the artists and, you know, even influencers and whoever. Even if you are a pure influencer, like you still have an input on what you're influencing. You're not just using your platforms to prop up brands. You know, brands are propping themselves up through you. So you need to also
prop yourself up through the brand.
Through the brand.
Yeah.
And people always get twisted like, maybe I shouldn't include myself. And you have to. Because people want to meet in the middle. That's when it works the best.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that with this, that's exactly what we've done.
Yeah. And then, again, where's the bottle actually?
Yeah, the bottle's right here.
So for me, like a lot of people, I always feel sometimes people don't get the message. A lot of people can look at this bottle and say, yo, this is Riky on a bottle, it's cool, I'll wear it, whatever. But for you, like when people see this bottle in the shops, you know, when people are getting ready in the morning and they see your face, like what do you want people to understand about this? What does this mean to you?
Well, for me, I mean, besides the design, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really about the actual object for me. It's more about like the symbolism of
what it
having
stands
this on the
for.
shelf. Because this is mostly like, this is telling a kid that passes it that I can do something.
Yeah.
You know, we got microphones on a Vaseline.
Yeah.
10 years ago, if you told your parents you wanted to be a musician, they'll tell you crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But we got microphones on a Vaseline, 2018, you know?
Yeah.
What does it say to a parent who passes it?
And we've got a black man on a Vaseline. You know, also that's another thing. There's so many textures.
And to a parent, it's really a kid.
Yeah.
This could be any of their kids, you know?
Yeah.
So it just says like, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And things aren't as impossible as they seem sometimes.
Yeah. And also I think for me, like
a huge
being part of this campaign and being part of sort of the supporting ambassadors to what you and Vaseline have been pushing, I think for me, one of the greatest things, it showed me the possibilities. Where I'm like, yo, it's not just about endorsing this brand. One day, like I could be the face of the brand. And where not just the face of the brand, but actually my face on the brand. Putting my blueprint on the brand, where I don't think people thought that was possible. I mean, between you and Black Coffee, you're like one of the first 2 South Africans to actually not endorse a product and be on its billboards, but have a product be part of your life, and most importantly, be on the actual product. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes in South Africa, we can sit in a very especially with creatives, like we can sit in a very space where we're like, yeah, why him? You know, why I'm cooler than that guy, I should be. But for me, it's like, your win is my win. Because you've done this step, the moment now, in 5 years, I talk to Vaseline and I say, yo, you know what I'm saying? I want to build a threaded man product with my face on it. It's going to be less of it. I'm going to be confident to do that because I know that it's happened before.
There's a precedent,
And I think that like that's not like appreciated enough locally. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
On that note, hanging out with my man Siya Beyile. Thank you very much for coming through. Thank you very much for kicking it with us. We need to do this more actually.
Yeah, dude, I'm actually like, I know we're ending the video and this is about Vaseline, but I'm gonna punch Riky for a second. Like, I'm so excited with the next evolution of, you know, where you're taking your brand. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love how in this space, especially like with hip hop, I feel there's a lot of pressure, especially with someone like you, where this pressure of constantly having to evolve, constantly having to create, and also like having all the kids like look up to you. It's always like you have to be on that next thing. But what I've loved about like the last 6 months, you've taken time to go back to your source, and now I'm starting to see it shine through like with the latest artwork that you're doing. So like I'm really, really excited. And one last question from me is that like you now evolving into the next step of your career, what is the one thing that people must remember about the Riky heritage? You know, one day your son will be, you know, an amazing kid creatively or whatever he decides to do. But when people speak to him about his dad, how do you imagine that conversation? How do you want people to talk about you and what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It depends how far we take it, you know?
Yeah.
But my vision is really to take it like I see myself as somebody one day who could, you know, have influence on policy, you know, have influence in how we, you know, run our roads, you know, how we teach kids at schools, what courses we have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, access to resources.
Access to resources. I feel like we have those inputs, you know?
Yeah.
Music, I think, is a beautiful legacy because music never goes away, it stays in the air. But I also want to do things that change the way that we drive, you know? Change the way that we
see life as a whole.
We see life as a whole, change the way that we eat, you know? And I want to be like an overall I won't say example because I'll do things the way I want to do them, but I want it to be like, I want Riky to live bigger than music and bigger than art or bigger than anything, just being known as a human being. It's very difficult. There's very few people who are known as human beings. You know, like you get the Gandhis, like nobody actually knows what Gandhi really did. You know? People don't know what Gandhi really, like what was his day-to-day activities. But because he touched so many people, the name speaks for itself, you know what I'm saying? Mandela, it's the same, you know? And I think we have a generation who are gonna take over those names. We have a generation of young people that can be the next Mandelas, the next Gandhis, the next Steve Bikos, the next Winnie Mandelas, you know?
The next Hugh Masekelas.
The next Hugh Masekelas, but you know, Hugh wasn't just about a trumpet. You know what I'm saying? He was bigger than a trumpet. And that's where I want sort of, that's where I would like to end my, you know, and where my mission statement is that. To be known as bigger
one last question. I feel like I'm learning here. I don't, you know, like, dude, like when I do these things, like as much as the audience, I always care about the lessons I'm learning. Because you have such a big vision, you know, it's much bigger than you. You know, it's much bigger than your son. We're talking about great grandkids. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that sometimes make you feel lonely? Because you have such a big vision, sometimes your moves are considered crazy and out of context because you know that the vision is sitting here. So do you ever feel sort of alienated because every single day you have to live with this vision that you have to try and get out, and sometimes people just don't get it?
Well, that's been the main thing. And even what you were saying about also going abroad to open yourself up is important because I'm like, I do everything alone. I literally do everything alone, you know? I don't have nobody backing me or backing me financially, or I don't have anybody running around for me or anything like that. It's only now I'm starting to learn to like link up with other people to create bigger and better me. But it's like I've always been in my head, always. But it's a gift and a curse. Because in my head is where you're allowed to be free. So my mom, I enjoy that. Like a lot of people are uncomfortable with being free in their head. Because it scares you. Like the vision you have for yourself scares you. So you end up like pulling back and not telling people. But sometimes it's also good.
Or editing what you say or how you act because you don't want to be too much for people.
But that's good also. Like you don't want to tell people what you're gonna do. Like especially in your field, like it's an element of surprise is very important, you know? It's getting more difficult because of the way you have to still maybe connect on social media as often as you do. The element of surprise gets a bit more difficult, you know? But I think that's what people really long for, is like they know what you do right now. They don't know what you're going to do in 6 months. They want you to surprise them. You know?
On a closing note, my mom said the craziest thing to me last week, and she was like, sometimes a lion has to go hunt alone in order for the family to eat. And I think sometimes we don't understand that. I think sometimes we always want all these people and all these cameras and all these things, and sometimes we don't understand why we are not performing at the level we should be. And that's because sometimes we just have too much around us, and sometimes just like being by yourself and having the close family, that's who you need to hunt with so that others can eat. Because sometimes I feel like we try to feed people when we haven't fed our family and ourselves first. You know, an empty well can't feed people.
And feed yourself, and feed your spirit, and feed your, you know, feed your brain with knowledge, and read books, and you know what I'm saying?
Okay, in closing this video, I really have to do this while you're here. I'm gonna open it and I'm gonna
try some, please.
You know, that was actually my dream.
Don't try
I'm
too much, because that's the extra strength right there.
Because I was like, one of the things I want to do today, while your face is on the Vaseline, I need to enjoy that moment and actually apply it in real time.
I mean, I bought it up this morning. I'm still fresh. It's still there. It's still lost.
Thank you so much, my dude. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, brother.
Spoon of my coins, spoon of my coins. Spoon of my coins, spoon of my coins. Spoon of my coins, spoon of my coins. Broadcast live.